In the bustling port city of Alexandria during the 6th century CE, the Byzantine Empire was near its zenith. This was a city of profound contradictions, where the monumental Pharos lighthouse, a wonder of the ancient world, still guided ships into harbour, and where the legacy of its great library fueled fierce theological debates. As Christianity solidified its hold, a man lived here who would be remembered not for battles fought or crowns worn, but for the journeys he undertook and the extraordinary vision of the world he left behind. His name was Cosmas. He would later earn the epithet Indicopleustes, the voyager to India. In an age when such a journey was a monumental and perilous undertaking, this was not merely a nickname, but a mark of rare distinction. But unlike monks such as Faxian or Xuanzang, who set out on sacred pilgrimages, Cosmas began his life in the far more worldly pursuit of trade. He was a merchant, a profession demanding courage and cunning. His life was one of calculated risks, sailing on ships across the treacherous Red Sea, navigating the complex politics of the Persian Gulf, and venturing into the distant, almost mythical harbours of India and Sri Lanka, all in pursuit of profit. Alexandria itself was a window to the world. Its markets were a sensory explosion, a cacophony of Greek, Coptic and Aramaic voices. It was a crossroads where exotic goods from Africa, Arabia and India converged, before being shipped to the imperial capital of Constantinople and the wider Mediterranean. Growing up in this vibrant environment, Cosmas' worldview was shaped by two powerful, competing forces: the sacred scriptures of his Christian faith and the tangible wonders of the material world. The spices, silks and ivory that flowed through the city's markets, each with the story of a faraway land. In those early years, he was not yet a monk nor a scholar. He was a man of the seas, a practical navigator whose eyes had seen the far horizons of the known world, a world that for most existed only in sailors' tales. But later in life, a profound change occurred. Whether driven by a spiritual crisis or a weariness of his perilous profession, Cosmas abandoned the world of trade for the quiet solitude of a monastery. He carried with him not gold or spices, but a wealth of memories, of distant lands, encounters with foreign kings, and indelible visions of unknown coasts. These memories, filtered through his devout faith, would fuel an extraordinary new purpose: to write the Christian Topography. It was a work unlike any other, a direct challenge to the pagan Greek science of Ptolemy that depicted a spherical Earth. For Cosmas, geography was not merely about lands and seas. It was an act of devotion, an attempt to map the world according to the literal truth of the scriptures and reveal the divine shape of the cosmos. Cosmas's voyages took him farther than most men of his time would ever dream. As a merchant, he harnessed the monsoon winds to cross the open ocean, sailing south from the Red Sea into the vast Indian Ocean. This was a world away from his native Mediterranean, and his destination was the legendary island of Taprobane, known today as Sri Lanka. Here he recorded not only the wealth of the land, its precious gems and spices, but also the splendour of its kings. He was fascinated by the pearl fisheries that enriched the island and described the bustling ports as great hubs where traders from Persia, Ethiopia and beyond exchanged goods. From Sri Lanka, he travelled further along the Malabar coast of India, the world's ancient spice garden. Here, spices like pepper, often called black gold, and cinnamon grew in abundance, and the air itself seemed to carry the intoxicating fragrance of trade. His accounts also tell of established Christian communities in India, complete with their own bishops and priests. For his readers in Byzantium, this was astonishing proof that the faith had spread far beyond the traditional boundaries of the Roman world. He observed the great rivers, the customs of the people, and the marvels of exotic flora and fauna. He described the coconut tree and its many uses, something entirely unknown in the West. To his readers, these wonders seemed almost mythical. His journeys did not stop there. Cosmas also travelled into the heart of Africa, reaching the Aksumite kingdom of Ethiopia. This was no remote outpost, but one of the great powers of late antiquity and a vital Christian ally for Byzantium. In Aksum, he witnessed the strength of a kingdom that connected the Red Sea with the African interior. trading immense quantities of ivory, gold and precious stones. The king even asked Cosmas to record a famous Greek inscription, a task that speaks to his educated status. For Cosmas, every journey was not only a commercial expedition, but a lesson in the vastness of God's creation. His eyes had seen elephants and the formidable rhinoceros, an animal he was one of the first to describe accurately. His ears had heard unfamiliar tongues, and his ships had docked in ports where Romans, Persians, Arabs and Indians met as equals in commerce. These travels, recorded later with meticulous detail, gave his work an authority that no armchair geographer could ever achieve. While others debated theory, Cosmas could offer the simple truth of first-hand experience. When Cosmas finally laid down the tools of the merchant and embraced the life of a monk, he turned his memories and experiences into a book that he called the Christian Topography. Written around 550 CE, this work was at once a description of the world as he had seen it and a defense of his Christian faith against what he considered the errors of pagan philosophy. Unlike the Greeks who believed in a spherical earth, Cosmas argued, based on his interpretation of Scripture, that the earth was flat, shaped like the rectangular tabernacle built by Moses in the desert. The heavens, he said, were like a great vaulted roof over this structure. To modern readers, his cosmology may appear strange, even wrong. But what made his work remarkable was not only the shape he gave to the earth, but the wealth of information he preserved about lands far beyond the Byzantine Empire. In his pages, he described the pepper trade of India, the pearl fisheries of Sri Lanka, the gold and ivory of Ethiopia, and the silk that travelled from China across deserts and seas. He spoke of the Christian communities he encountered in India and Ceylon, of their churches and practices, proving that Christianity was not confined to Europe or the Middle East, but had become a truly global faith. He recorded the ships that sailed the monsoon winds across the Indian Ocean, showing an understanding of seasonal navigation that was vital to commerce. Though his cosmology may not have lasted, his geography was invaluable, offering future generations a glimpse into the trade networks and cultural exchanges of the 6th century. Cosmas Indicopleustes stands today as a figure both curious and vital, a product of the intellectual crucible of 6th century Alexandria. He was not a philosopher who speculated from a library, nor a conqueror who left empires in his wake. He was a traveller who saw the world with his own eyes, a merchant who understood its rhythms, and a monk who sought to reconcile what he saw with what he believed. His Christian topography may have been dismissed in later centuries as unscientific, but to judge it on its cosmology alone is to miss its true value. Its pages remain a treasure trove of knowledge about the ancient world's geography, commerce and cross-cultural connections. He documents the political structure of the Kingdom of Aksum and the intricate details of the maritime spice trade. First-hand information that remains invaluable to historians today. Historians value him because he gives us direct, eyewitness evidence of how global trade linked Byzantium, India, Sri Lanka and Africa long before the age of exploration. He wasn't just repeating rumours, he was describing ports he had visited and merchants he had met, painting a vivid picture of a thriving, interconnected 6th century world economy. Unlike Faxian, whose journey was guided by the search for Buddhist scriptures, Cosmas offers the perspective of a merchant turned monk. This dual identity is key. He was a man who first counted profits and weighed spices before he began measuring the earth against the tabernacle of Moses. His practical background infuses his writing with a gritty realism, focusing on details a purely spiritual pilgrim might overlook. His writings remind us that history is not only made by kings and warriors, but also by the sailors, traders and monks who carried ideas and goods across continents. Through his eyes, the Indian Ocean is not a footnote to imperial history, but its very engine, driven by the ambitions and resilience of ordinary people whose names are otherwise lost to time. His life's work becomes a microcosm of his era's great intellectual struggle. In telling his story, we see how faith and travel, commerce and culture, belief and observation all came together in the life of one man each force pulling him in a different direction as he tried to map his world. And though the world has long since accepted the globe as round, the vision of Cosmas remains important. His rectangular world wasn't born of ignorance, but of a profound desire for a unified theory. It shows us that every age explains the world in its own way, and that in the 6th century one traveller from Alexandria tried to capture the vastness of the earth in the language of both scripture and memory. For this reason, Cosmas Indicopleustes deserves his place among the greatest travellers in history. He was a merchant who became a monk, a man who mapped the world not only with lines and distances, but also with faith and imagination. He journeyed to the ends of the known world, but his ultimate quest was an internal one, to find meaning and order in it all. The map he left behind was not just of lands and seas, but of a 6th century soul grappling with existence.